In the early days of the 20th century, the nature of warfare was changing forever. The horse was being replaced by the engine. Tanks, trucks, and airplanes were becoming the new cavalry. These machines promised speed and power, but they all shared a hungry, relentless thirst for one thing: fuel. Armies now needed to move millions of gallons of gasoline and diesel to keep their forces moving. This created a colossal logistical challenge that military planners had never faced before on such a scale. How do you transport this vital liquid to the front lines, which could be hundreds of miles away, without losing it? The solution seemed simple enough: put it in a can. But as armies soon discovered, the cans they were using were simply not up to the job. The fuel containers used by most armies before World War II were, to put it bluntly, terrible. The British used a flimsy, square-shaped tin can, often called a petrol tin. It was made of thin metal that dented easily. The seams were soldered shut, but they often split open under pressure or with rough handling. These tins were essentially disposable, designed for one-time use in a civilian context. Another common container was a 10-gallon drum that was heavy and awkward. It required a separate wrench to open the bung and a funnel to pour the fuel, both of which were easily lost in the chaos of a battlefield. These containers were a logistical nightmare, leading to enormous waste. Imagine trying to fuel a column of tanks advancing across a continent. Soldiers would have to handle thousands of these inadequate cans. Many would arrive at the front empty, their precious contents having leaked out over bumpy roads. The flimsy tins would buckle and burst when stacked, creating dangerous fuel spills. The heavier drums were difficult for a single soldier to carry and pour, slowing down the vital process of refueling. It was a frustrating and inefficient system. For every 10 gallons of fuel that left the depot, it was not uncommon for only a fraction of it to actually make it into a vehicle's tank. This wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a critical vulnerability that could halt an entire army in its tracks. This problem of fuel transportation was a ticking time bomb for any military with ambitions of rapid, mechanized warfare. An army that could not reliably get fuel to its spearhead units was an army that could be easily defeated. The speed of an advance was not just determined by the horsepower of its engines, but by the integrity of the containers that carried its lifeblood. Generals and planners knew this. They understood that a breakthrough on the battlefield could quickly turn into a disaster if the tanks and trucks ran dry. Before the world plunged into its second Great War, the race was on to solve this simple but profound problem. The army that could master fuel logistics would hold a decisive advantage. In the 1930s, Germany was rearming at a furious pace. Adolf Hitler's vision for the future of war was built around a new and terrifying concept: the Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. This strategy depended on speed, surprise, and deep, rapid penetrations into enemy territory. Columns of tanks, or panzers, supported by motorized infantry and aircraft, would smash through enemy lines and drive relentlessly forward, sowing chaos and confusion. This was a war of movement, designed to avoid the static, trench-bound slaughter of World War I. But this entire military doctrine rested on a very fragile foundation. It required a constant, uninterrupted supply of fuel to keep the engines of the war machine running at full throttle. German military planners were acutely aware of the logistical weaknesses that had plagued armies in the past. They had studied the fuel wastage problems of other nations and were determined not to repeat them. They needed a fuel container that was as robust and efficient as the panzers it was designed to supply. The old, leaky tins and heavy, awkward drums simply would not do. A request was sent out for a new, standardized fuel can. It had to be tough, easy to carry, easy to stack, and easy to pour from. It needed to be a piece of military equipment, not a modified civilian product. The task fell to an engineering firm, Müller and Company, and a brilliant chief engineer named Vinzenz Grünvogel. Grünvogel and his team approached the problem with methodical German precision. In 1937, They developed a design that was revolutionary in its simplicity and effectiveness. It was a 20-liter, or about 5.3 gallons can, given the official designation Wehrmacht Einheitskanister, the Armed Forces Unit canister. The design was so well thought out that it was considered a state secret. Production began in 1939, just as Germany was preparing to unleash its new form of warfare upon Europe. Thousands of these new cans were manufactured and stockpiled, ready to support the coming invasion of Poland. The German High Command knew they had something special, a small but vital piece of technology that their adversaries lacked. The secrecy surrounding the Wehrmacht canister was intense. The Germans knew that the Khan's superior design gave them a significant logistical edge. If the Allies discovered it and copied it, that advantage would be lost. So, while panzer divisions were being assembled and Stuka dive bombers were being built, a quiet revolution was happening in German factories. Millions of these unassuming steel cans were rolling off the production lines. They were painted and stockpiled, a crucial but overlooked component of the Blitzkrieg machine. This humble fuel can, born of necessity and ingenious design, was about to become one of the most important and yet unsung pieces of equipment of the Second World War. What made the German can so special? It was a masterpiece of functional design, where every feature served a specific, practical purpose. The body was constructed from two pieces of pressed steel, which were then welded together. This seam weld was a critical innovation. Unlike the soldered seams of British tins, this welded seam was incredibly strong and far less likely to split or leak, even when the can was dropped or roughly handled. The can had a rectangular shape with rounded corners, which made it robust and prevented it from getting snagged on clothing or equipment. It was built to endure the rigors of a combat environment, a tool designed for soldiers, not for a garage shelf. Perhaps the most iconic feature was the set of 3 handles. This was a stroke of genius. A single soldier could comfortably carry 2 empty cans in one hand. One full can, weighing over 40 pounds, could be carried by one person using the center handle. This provided excellent balance. 2 soldiers could carry a single full can between them, each grabbing an outer handle, making it easier to transport over long distances. Most cleverly, 4 empty cans could be carried by one soldier by interlocking the handles. This simple 3-handle system dramatically improved the efficiency of moving fuel by hand, a common task on any battlefield. It was a small detail that made a huge difference in the daily grind of military logistics. The can's design included other brilliant features. An X shape was pressed into each side of the can. This was not for decoration. These indentations acted as strengthening ribs, making the can more rigid and resistant to damage. They also allowed the contents to expand and contract with changes in temperature or altitude without bursting the can seams, a vital feature for fuel transported in hot deserts or unpressurized aircraft. The spout was another marvel of engineering. It had a short, air-breathing tube that ran alongside the main opening. This allowed air to enter the can as the fuel poured out, creating a smooth, glug-free flow. This made refueling vehicles quick, easy, and spill-free, without the need for a separate funnel. To top it all off, the can had a simple and secure closure system. A cam lever latch sealed the spout tightly, and a locking pin ensured it could not open by accident. You didn't need a special wrench to open it. A soldier could do it with his hands, even while wearing gloves. Inside, the can was lined with a special plastic material. This prevented the fuel from becoming contaminated with rust, which could clog a vehicle's fuel lines and disable it. Every single element of the Wehrmacht canister had been carefully considered to solve a real-world problem. It was strong, stackable, easy to carry, and easy to pour from. It was quite simply the perfect military fuel can. When Germany invaded Poland in September 1939, and then France and the Low Countries in 1940, the world witnessed the terrifying effectiveness of Blitzkrieg. Panzer divisions sliced through enemy lines, advancing dozens of miles each day. This relentless pace was only possible because of a well-oiled supply chain, and at the heart of that supply chain was the Wehrmacht canister. Trucks loaded high with these sturdy, stackable cans raced to keep up with the armored spearheads. When a tank ran low on fuel, soldiers could quickly grab a few cans, pour the contents without spilling a drop, and get the vehicle moving again in minutes. The German army was not just fighting a new kind of war, it was fueling it in a new way. The advantages became even more apparent during the North African campaign. In the vast, open expanses of the desert, logistics were everything. Supply lines were stretched to their breaking point, and every drop of fuel was precious. General Erwin Rommel's Afrika Korps relied heavily on the Jerrycan to keep its tanks and trucks mobile. The can's robust construction withstood the rough desert terrain, and its sealed spout kept out the fine, engine-clogging sand. The ability to refuel quickly was a tactical advantage. Rommel could keep his forces moving, outmaneuvering his British opponents whose operations were often hampered by their own shockingly inefficient fuel containers. The Jerrycan was the lifeline that sustained the blitzkrieg in the desert. British soldiers fighting in North Africa quickly learned to respect and covet the German fuel can. They saw how effective it was compared to their own flimsy tins, which leaked catastrophically in the heat and rough conditions. It was estimated that for every 10 gallons of fuel sent from port, the British were lucky if 3 gallons made it to the front lines. The rest was lost to leakage from their terrible tins. German soldiers, by contrast, suffered minimal losses. Captured German fuel cans became highly prized trophies for British troops. They were so much better than anything the Allies had that they were immediately put to use. The soldiers nicknamed it the Jerrycan, a slang term for anything German, and the name stuck. The Jerrycan was more than just a container. It was a force multiplier. It allowed German commanders to plan and execute daring, long-range operations with a confidence their opponents could not match. The speed of the German advance across Europe was a direct result of their ability to project mechanized power, and that power was projected in 20-liter increments. The unassuming can allowed a tactical flexibility that was central to the blitzkrieg concept. Without the Wehrmacht canister, the lightning war would have sputtered to a halt. It was a simple tool, but it played a crucial role in Germany's early victories and demonstrated the profound impact of superior logistics on the modern battlefield. The British and Americans did not learn about the Jerrycan from intelligence reports or spies. They learned about it the hard way, on the battlefield. During the early stages of the war, particularly in the North African desert, Allied soldiers came across abandoned or captured German equipment. Among the rifles, helmets, and vehicles, they found these strange-looking but incredibly practical fuel cans. For troops who were used to wrestling with their own terrible containers, the German can was a revelation. It didn't leak. It was easy to carry. It poured smoothly. It was strong enough to be used as a stool or a step. It was, in every way, superior. The contrast with the standard Allied equipment was stark and embarrassing. The British primarily used 2 types of containers. One was the 4-gallon petrol tin, a square can made of thin, soldered sheet metal. It was so fragile that it was often said that the only way to get it to the front without leaking was to not fill it in the first place. The other was a 10-gallon steel drum that was heavy, unwieldy, and required special tools to open and pour from. Both designs resulted in staggering losses of fuel, a commodity more precious than gold in the middle of the desert. The waste was so bad, it became a major operational handicap for the British 8th Army. American forces were not much better off. Their standard container was the 5-gallon Blitz can, which, despite its name, was a poor design. It had a single handle, a small screw cap, and required a separate spout and funnel for pouring. The cap was difficult to tighten properly, leading to leaks, and the separate spout was constantly getting lost. Soldiers hated it. It was awkward to carry and slow to use. When American troops arrived in North Africa for Operation Torch in 1942, they brought thousands of these cans with them, only to discover that their German enemy had a far superior solution. The evidence was undeniable, scattered across the battlefields. The Jerrycan quickly became one of the most sought-after pieces of captured enemy equipment. Allied quartermasters and soldiers would go to great lengths to acquire them. A common sight was a British or American truck driving past, its racks filled not with its own nation's cans, but with captured German Jerrycans painted with Allied markings. It was a clear and humbling admission that the enemy had gotten this one thing profoundly right. The demand for Jerrycans on the front lines became so great that it sent a clear message back to the High Command in London and Washington. We need to copy this design, and we need to do it now. The war of logistics was on, and the Allies were falling behind. The Allied leadership took notice of the frantic reports from the field. The chorus of complaints about their own fuel cans and the praise for the German design became too loud to ignore. In 1942, an American engineer stationed in London got his hands on a captured Jerrycan. He saw its genius immediately and sent it back to the United States with a recommendation for it to be copied exactly. British and American manufacturers were tasked with reverse engineering the German masterpiece. They studied its welded seams, its three-handle configuration, its clever spout, and its internal lining. The goal was not to improve upon the design, but to replicate it as faithfully and as quickly as possible. The transition was not without its problems. Initial American attempts to modify their existing Blitzcan by adding features from the Jerrycan were unsuccessful. It took time to retool factories to produce the complex pressed steel shape and the crucial welded seam. However, the urgency of the war effort spurred them on. By 1943, both Britain and the United States were mass-producing their own versions of the Jerrycan. They were nearly identical to the German original, a testament to the perfection of Grünvogel's design. Millions upon millions of these new cans began to flow from factories, destined for every theater of war, from the deserts of Africa to the jungles of the Pacific. The impact of the Allied Jerrycan was immediate and profound. In the build-up to the D-Day landings in Normandy, the logistics of supplying the invasion force were staggering. Operation Overlord would be the largest amphibious assault in history, and it would require an ocean of fuel. Thanks to the mass production of the new Jerrycans, the Allies could stockpile and transport fuel with an efficiency that would have been impossible just a year earlier. On the beaches of Normandy and in the fields beyond, Allied soldiers could keep their tanks, jeeps, and trucks moving. The Jerrycan eliminated the crippling fuel wastage that had plagued earlier campaigns and gave Allied commanders greater operational freedom. Nowhere was the Jerrycan's importance more evident than in the Red Ball Express. After the breakout from Normandy, General George S. Patton's Third Army raced across France at incredible speed. This rapid advance created a massive supply problem, as the army threatened to outrun its fuel lines. To solve this, the Allies organized a gigantic non-stop truck convoy system, the Red Ball Express, which ran 24 hours a day to deliver supplies to the front. The backbone of this operation was the Jerrycan. Thousands of trucks, loaded with Jerrycans, ferried fuel to Patton's thirsty tanks. Without this reliable, robust container, the historic dash across France would have ground to a halt. The Jerrycan was the humble enabler of one of the war's most famous pursuits. The Jerrycan's influence extended to every corner of the globe where Allied soldiers fought. In the Pacific, it was indispensable. Soldiers fighting in the jungles of New Guinea or on the volcanic shores of Iwo Jima relied on Jerrycans to supply fuel for everything from flamethrowers to generators. They were often filled with water instead of fuel, providing a safe and clean source of drinking water, a life-saving function in tropical climates. The can's ruggedness meant it could be dropped from supply planes or tossed from landing craft without bursting. It became a ubiquitous part of a soldier's life, a trusted piece of gear as essential as a rifle or a helmet. The value of this simple invention was not lost on the leaders of the war. President Franklin D. Roosevelt himself commented on the importance of improved logistics, noting that without these cans, it would have been impossible for our armies to cut their way across France at a lightning pace. It was a rare and remarkable tribute to a piece of equipment that most people would never notice. Even Hitler was reported to have been aware of the can's importance. When he heard the Allies had copied the design, he knew Germany had lost a key logistical advantage. The Jerrycan was not a weapon that fired bullets, but it was a weapon of war nonetheless. In the final analysis, the story of the Jerrycan is a powerful reminder that wars are not won by tanks and planes alone. They are won by logistics, by the mundane but critical business of supplying an army in the field. The side that can do this most efficiently has a tremendous advantage. The Jerrycan solved a fundamental problem of modern warfare: how to move liquid fuel reliably and without waste. It was a small invention, a simple steel box, but its impact was enormous. It enabled the German blitzkrieg in the early years of the war, and it later fueled the Allied advance to victory. Today, the design of the Jerrycan remains largely unchanged. It is still used by armies, aid organizations, and off-road enthusiasts around the world. It stands as a monument to brilliant functional design. Its story is a testament to the idea that sometimes the most significant innovations are not the most complex or glamorous. The Jerrycan was an unsung hero of the Second World War. It did not win any medals or earn any headlines, but without it, the history of the 20th century might have been written very differently. It proves that in the vast, complicated machinery of war, even the smallest parts can be the most important.